Hello, welcome to Good Games Well Played, episode 189. I'm Clint, aka JCM. With us this week is Isley.
Yo.
And Messiah.
Hello.
And it's after the holiday break. All the news articles now are just like, what to expect in 2025 and all that nonsense and like Squid Game crossovers with Call of Duty for some reason, whatever. I'm like, all right, okay. So, not too much game-wise. But I did see that the PlayStation Plus announced their games for January. And one of the games that they announced was Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. But that game's coming offline, like, I think this year.
Oops.
So I'm like, I guess they just want to get it out and have people play it before it goes?
That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, because it says here, Rocksteady is pulling the plug on new, in this report from IGN, we're pulling the plug on new content for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League after Season 4, with the developer announcing his plan to end support for the troubled online game in January of this year. So this story mode will remain playable via offline, and it will be possibly co-op with friends, apparently. But any other contents, it's like, it's there, but it's like this game is essentially no longer supported. Like, okay, so here's a free game that no one played. Like, it's such a weird move. Like, I've seen Sony do that with PlayStation Plus titles where, like, the big title is something that's, like, underplayed, but typically it'll be, like, not as poorly reviewed as
I could see it happening if there was an intent to keep the game should enough people start playing it and it grow a large enough base after making it free. Like, that would sort of make sense, but I don't imagine that's what's happening here.
Yeah, it's like they didn't do this for Concord. I mean, it's not first party, so it's not the same, but it's just so silly. Like, they're doing... I mean, who knows? Maybe it's like people will try it out for... Maybe, you know, how we hear the term all the time. It's really detrimental to video games, but where it's like, oh, it's definitely a Game Pass game. You know, one of those where people don't buy it. They only play on Game Pass, but then the developers aren't going to get nearly as much and what have you. So, it's, you know, hopefully if they're small, whatever they got from Microsoft up front will be good enough to float them to their next title. But it's like, oh, I'll just wait till it comes to Game Pass. I'll wait till it comes to Game Pass. And this is like one of those, well, I guess I'll play it now because it's free. And maybe it's like, it's fun enough. Like, a lot of people say like, oh, I really like this game, but just if you're going to get it on sale on Steam. Like, you know, I wouldn't buy it at full price. Just buy it on sale. So it could be like that, where like this game was not worth the retail cost, but free, it's actually fun to play. Especially if you can still do co-op. It's like, okay, maybe it is fun. And I've heard the Batman, there's like a bit where Batman's like hunting you down in a level, and that sounds kind of fun. Like you're on the opposite end of what you usually do in the Arkham games. I was like, oh, that sounds like, I didn't play those, but that sounds kind of cool. But as a free game, I was like, maybe it could be fun to play when it's free.
I mean, I don't even remember which game this was, but like, wasn't Suicide Squad the one where it looked really interesting and then they changed it into essentially like a looter shooter?
Well, they announced it, but they set out the gate like that's what it was. So they thought, like, you know, everybody wants single player only experience, no online stuff. And it's like, oh no, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. It's a perpetual online game with, you know, loot boxes and yada yada, and the way the mission structure works and stuff like that. So like people were like extremely disappointed from Rocksteady because that's not in line with what they had done previously. But, you know, maybe it's fun free. Maybe we should play it and then we can talk about it and be like we'll just go in there, do like a couple days of co-op and report back like a retrospective, like, was this fun as a free game?
That's so interesting too, because like what happens if everybody gets it free and they play it solo, or they play it like couch co-op, or, you know, with friends or whatever, and it's like, oh, this was actually a decent game without all of the live service bullshit.
Yeah,
I think
right.
There's probably a lot of games that would be like that, though, where if it didn't have some of the live service shit, you would actually be like, oh, I can progress in this. I can get like weapons and armor. I don't have to grind for it. Like, as soon as you eliminate essentially forced grinding, a lot of things are probably fun.
But I don't know if they're doing that thing where some, and maybe they are, where they'll just make, like when X Defiant was going to come offline, they just made all the unlockables available to everyone. And they released unreleased future content just all at once. So you get guns that have like the in-menu UI for the gun like isn't right. It's like a P90, but it should be something else. But in-game, it's the gun. But it's like, this is content we were working on. We didn't get to finish for, you know, season 4, 5, 6 or whatever. Here it is now. You can play it. And everybody can get access to it. You don't have to level up your guns. You just get a blanket access. If they did that for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, where it's like, hey, you don't have to worry about leveling, you get access to everything, like that'd be interesting. But I feel like they're not going to do that. I think the biggest problem with the game as well is because of that design. A lot of the missions it got repetitive pretty quick. So it's like maybe that first 6 hours is fun, but then it's like, all right, you're doing the same, go here, defend this point, kill the horde. Okay, they're just skinned a little different, but it's the same mission. Like, it doesn't, there's not enough variety. And I feel like that seemed like one of the biggest killers outside of just not being the single player game people wanted from Rocksteady. It's like, you just needed more variety. And like, as their first, I mean, I'm not familiar with their full portfolio or previous portfolios of all the people that worked there, if they worked at other studios that did online service games, or live service games rather. But like, if this is their first one, I mean, look at like Tlu Factions. Like they've done multiplayer, but they just scrapped this one because clearly it wasn't coming together. So maybe this is like, oh, we have, or like Redfall, like we have a good base, but you needed to add more variety for the player. And I feel like that's probably where they fell short. And like I said, maybe it is fun for a couple hours, but it's like that grind of, okay, but I want to keep leveling, but I'm running the same mission type over and over and over again. And it's like, okay. I mean, I get some of that with like Icarus, where it's like, okay, there's multiple different mission types. It just, what varies them up is where you do them. And that becomes the new factor in how it changes the missions. Like, oh, instead of this mission type in this biome, it's in this biome. Okay, well, now my resource collection is going to be entirely different because this one's got, it's a desert. There's not nearly as many trees, but there's plenty of stone. And maybe I got to do this. I know what I have to do first to get up and running in order to do this type of mission in this area. There's also more aggressive creatures or what have you. So it's like, that'll change it. Whereas this is kind of like, nah, it's still in the city and it's all kind of the samey. But I don't know. Maybe I'll download it and play it and see. Who knows? Play the dead game. But alongside that is also the Stanley Parable, which I feel like has been on PlayStation Plus, but it's the Ultra Deluxe.
It's definitely been on PS Plus for back and forth a few times. It's also been on sale for like 90% off multiple times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Need for Speed, the Hot Pursuit Remastered is also going to be in there. That's like one of the only Need for Speeds I used to play back in the day was Hot Pursuit on PlayStation. I played that all the time. It was such a fun game. But
I think that was the only one that I had. The only Need for Speed game I ever owned and played.
Yeah, it was a good time. Yeah, those are the PlayStation Plus games for this month. So interesting selection. And then we had Black Myth Wukong, of course, isn't on Xbox. And I guess the devs were saying that the reason it isn't is because of the Series S. And the main difference between the two consoles is just the memory limit. And because they're such a new studio, they said they aren't that, tech savvy in that space to really optimize properly for the Series S. Whereas like they could have done fine on the X, but because they need, parity between the systems, feature parity and whatnot, they couldn't get it done on that 10 gigabytes of shared memory. But
the whole concept of the two of them having parity was such a weird thing of, if you're making two different consoles and you want them both to have parity and one is a more expensive version and one is a cheaper version, like you just can't do that. If you want them to have parity, you just need to make the cheaper version then. Why have like a fancier console to begin with?
I feel like it would have been fine if we have two PCs that both have, like you and I have, you just got a computer, right? Let's say in this case, I also have a laptop, I have a PC, Zai has one. Like if we all have the same, let's say 16 gigs of RAM, same storage, but we have different, same product line of NVIDIA GPU and AMD CPU, and I just have a higher tier and you have a lower tier, but we have the same RAM. It's like, okay, well, if your RAM's the same, you're usually good. It's like you can scale them down. Like if the memory in the S was the same as the X, and the only thing different was the CPU, GPU, I feel like they would have been fine, because then at least you can, look at games like Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, or like Star Wars, like their Snowdrop engine scales really well up and down. And like obviously you can tell visually, like, hey, this one's on this console, so it's going to look a little less than it does at the super high, settings, yada yada. But it's like, make the memory the same, and then just make the graphics and everything else different. That way you play at a low resolution, lower FPS.
Graphics and FPS are different, though. That's not parity.
Well, it's feature parity, not visual parity. If it has, that's why Baldur's Gate, because Baldur's Gate had split screen co-op, but they couldn't get that running on the S because of the memory issue, and they had to work. Xbox gave them the clearance to release it while they tried to work on solving that problem, and I think they ended up scrapping it because they couldn't do it. So it's like if they had, that was a very different case. Where this is like, okay, if you can run it at a lower resolution instead of being 1440p upscaled to 4K on the X, just do it like 720 or 600 upscaled to 1080p or whatever at 30 FPS, probably with some frame pacing issues, whatever. It's like, okay, you could do that, but it's like if the memory is the thing that's the hardest to scale for, it's like, okay, now we can't have nearly as much stuff to access, yada yada. Plus, it's shared memory. It's not dedicated. So I feel like that's your biggest problem. That's where you should be like, you should keep the memory the same. But you can have the CPU, GPU different because it's easier to scale resolution and FPS versus how much memory is available for access on the console side. Because like, okay, you can build around those at least if they have a very similar. You just have to have visual fidelity upscales, downscales. So it's just, I hope they learn the lesson for next. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot of this has popped up, but maybe it is a headache. I mean, we've heard anecdotally from things like GDC that it is a headache, but people are doing it. But it's like their least favorite thing about Xbox developers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if they'll just not do that on their next console and be like, all right, we'll just do the PS5 thing where they released a physical and digital version and it's $100 difference, and not do a $200 difference between your big box and your little box or something. But who knows? I mean, I guess if they released on X, but then no, you couldn't just do it like, oh, you can play it on the streaming service, because then it would be people don't have the internet. Well, if they bought the digital, they would have to have internet. But
I mean, I think the answer is just like the whole requiring it to work on different consoles just doesn't work super well, because then you are effectively designing for 3 consoles instead of 2, or like 4 instead of 2, or however many variations you have. The whole point of a console is that it's easier to develop for, and I don't know, with increased development costs, and we keep hearing that like AAA games are unrealistic and require crunch and all of that, it just makes it seem like we should not be making it even more challenging.
Yeah, definitely. It should be like, why are we putting more frustration in there?
Yeah.
It also puts a lot of onus on especially new developers, where they're like, we don't even want to take the chance of our game not running properly on this console because it's just going to be detrimental to like reviews and what people are saying and stuff like that. So it's like, we put a lot of work into making this game as visually impressive and performance impressive as possible. Now we have to scale it down for this other console, and if it doesn't work properly on this console, it's only going to reflect negatively on us.
Yeah, especially if your engine doesn't scale super well. That can be a problem, because there's not too many out there that scale super well. A lot of them, a good amount of the big ones do, but yeah, it's like you gotta, because then you're like setting that, because they I mean, that's what they talk about. People complain on PC all the time when there's a cross-platform game where it's like, oh, they gotta make it fit on the PS2 for FF11. They gotta make it fit on the PS3 for FF14. So it's like your base development structure has to be around your lowest common denominator. But yeah, it's it's gotta.
Or like, look at all the games that come out on PS5 and PS4. Like, we know that PS4 holds back the PS5 games, that they could potentially do more if it was dropped. But it's the same kind of thing. If it just makes it really challenging.
Yeah, or it's like it's a thing like you either limit down or you limit up. Like you said, for like okay, this game, Spider-Man Miles Morales is on both, but then Spider-Man 2 is only on PS5. So it's like, now we have more room. Visually, that game looks super stunning versus the previous entries because it's only on PS5. And it's like, okay, well, Horizon and God of War look great on last gen consoles, and they look slightly better on the PS5 version because they get a higher, resolution, so everything looks sharper, more clear. Maybe get some little extra effects. Like a game like Sackboy Big Adventure was an interesting one, because like I looked at the Digital Foundry review for that. Obviously, that was a launch title, and like seeing like the differences between that and the PS4 version were like, okay, the PS4 is like 4K, but there's also like the material looks better, looks more like that craft material that Little Big Planet is supposed to have, and then there's like also more. I don't want to call it foliage because it was fake, but like there's this fake grass that was in some of the levels, and it's like it's missing in the base one because they just can't do it because the way it moved and everything. Like, hey, we'll just cut that out. But it's like stuff you wouldn't notice. But it's like, okay, what if they had just the PS5? So it's like either limit yourself down or you limit yourself up, where when you scale it down, it doesn't hold together well, or like you can't hold, you get a Bloodborne frame rate or something where it's like, okay, this has bad frame pacing, yada yada. We can't do this on the lower consoles, but who knows? Because anytime I watch like a Digital Foundry video for how stuff performs, I'm always interested in like what things look like on the S. And for most of it's like, yeah, it's 30 FPS at a lower resolution. Like, it's not too bad, especially like I said, if your engine can scale. But typically that's for like stuff that's made on last gen or has an engine that was designed for last gen, and they're not doing strictly PS5 and series consoles. So, but yeah. We'll see what they do. I'm sure they'll have developer conversations and I mean, like that's why they increased the RAM in the PS4 because all the devs were like, we want more, and like, okay, we'll do more. So maybe they'll be like, Microsoft, don't do this, please. Who knows? And then the last thing, it sparked up a bunch of rumors. Was the voice actor for G-Man tweeting his first time since like Valve released Half-Life Alyx in 2020. The dude hasn't tweeted in forever, and then he tweets like a video for the new year doing #Valve, #Half-Life, #G-Man, #2025 on New Year's, and it was just like, but like in his voice, but also kind of his G-Man voice, and it's like, okay, what does this mean? What this sort of was like speculating, like, although Valve obviously wouldn't, if they were working on Half-Life 3, I don't think they would be like, yo, hey, can you go out there and mic and do a tweet, cryptic tweet? Like, that's not what Gabe would want. They would have that shit locked down.
Drunk on New Year's and having fun.
All the freaking people that just want it to be real, and it will.
Well, no shit,
it will
man.
never be real.
They want it to be real. I want it to be real. That'd be dope. I want to play Alyx. Like, I already know everything about the game, but I'm like, I want to play it. That's like the first thing I want to play when I get like a VR one day. But yeah, that's pretty much it for news. Like I said, there wasn't a whole lot. A lot of end of the year wrap up, what to expect next year, what they think GTA 6 is going to grow. It's like, okay, whatever. The Nintendo Switch 2 rumors, yada yada. So not a whole lot to cover here. So, but we are getting right into the new year, so maybe we'll see some more stuff. Maybe announcements for like PlayStation Directs or like Xbox showcases or stuff like that. Who knows?
It's annoying because I have like a list of games that I'm tracking that I hope are coming out, but they were all announced like 3 years ago and then just kind of went silent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like none of those games are announced or were given updates for any of this stuff, but those are the ones I'm interested in, but I don't even know if they exist still.
Yeah. And I'm curious like when Sony is going to have a state of play or something, because are they going to wait for, that June timeframe, the old E3 timeframe? Because like, okay, well, what's going on with Fair Games? Like, what's up with that? Are you going to show more of, are you going to talk about Marathon this year? Or are you just going to let it silently sit in the back? Are we going to see, we'll probably get another trailer for Death Stranding 2?
Whatever happened to the Gothic remake?
Right?
Yeah. Where is
did
Silk
Nightingale?
Song?
Yeah, Silksong. Whatever happened to Silksong and Word Song, and I have been following Witchfire, which at least finally got a early access, and the early access looks really good. So that's like a fun one. But yeah, I don't know. I want them to stop freaking announcing games 3 years in advance. I want to know about a game like the year it is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
What was that one game that got announced a while back? Was that a Sony thing? It's I don't want to call it like a cutesy art style. It got backlash for that bit where the character's like running through the forest and there's a bunch of like, there's like a tribe, but they I think the controversy is kind of like the almost like blackface and like, oh, it's a little stereotypical.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember what it's called.
I forget the name of it.
Yeah. It was like a
devil in the
seemed like a co-op type of thing, or just
maybe, but I don't know where that is. That's gone. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like Judas. We don't know what's going on with that.
Oh God, yeah, that's another one I just forgot about.
But I mean, there's a lot of stuff this year we can expect. Like obviously,
Judas was supposed to be March of this year originally.
Originally, okay.
Yeah, so like, I don't think Judas is coming out in 2 months.
Yeah, but yeah, at least I mean, we get the. Oh wait, what? Sorry, this article said something. I was like, did it get delayed? Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay. Okay. It just said spring. Okay. For some reason, someone made it sound like Indiana Jones on PS5 got delayed. I was like, no, it shouldn't have got delayed, right? The article's more like, why is it delayed? It's like, oh no, it's just a timed exclusive.
It's done. It's out. It shouldn't be delayed.
Yeah, well, just on the PS5 version anyway.
Yeah. It's like all they have to do is push the button to release it.
Yeah. Export.ps5.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, that'll be coming out this year on PS5. I look forward to playing that. I was hoping to come out this month, but I think it's just like spring is what they said back during that reveal trailer. But like, there's that coming out. Yeah, there's so many other things. Like, okay, they've got announced, but they don't have Windows, and then just stuff that we haven't seen in a while. The Phantom Blade Zero. Who knows about that? But yeah, and then
I also I want updates on all of the games that we know are eventually going to come to PS5, but haven't been announced yet. Like I'm sure Stalker 2 is eventually going to come to PS5.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, like I want updates on things like that too, or like Avowed.
Yeah, and then who knows? That will probably, if that comes to PS5, I'm sure they'll do like a bigger exclusivity window. Whereas like with Indiana Jones, it's probably like Disney's like, yeah, you can do a time exclusivity.
We want money.
We want it on more stuff than that. So I mean, that's why MLB is on so many other platforms, is on Xbox, because MLB is like, no, we don't want it to be exclusive anymore. Can you guys put it on Xbox? So it's like, okay, MLB shows on Xbox now. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, a lot of stuff. I'm looking forward to playing Indiana Jones. I try to stay away from anybody talking about it, like all the end year discussions on podcasts, and they bring up Indiana Jones. I'm like, okay, I just got to skip this entire section because I want to wait to play it. But yeah, that's it for the news. Not a whole lot. Go ahead and jump into what we've been playing. Isley, we'll start with you since you've been out. I know you've been traveling, so you probably haven't had time to play too much. You were playing like a shit ton of Corekeeper.
I was playing a shit ton of Corekeeper. I did get the platinum in Corekeeper, and I don't super feel the need to continue playing it at the moment. I mean, I've done everything there is and built like a cool base. So if there's ever major updates, I'll probably dive back into it. Because honestly, it was one of those games that I knew it was Minecraft Terraria Lite and assumed that for the price point that I bought it at, which was like kind of dirt cheap, that it would be a smaller game. And then it really ended up surprising me with how much content there actually was in it and how well developed it was. Because I always see it like ranked as, Minecraft first and then Terraria and then Corekeeper somewhere in like a distant third. But it was a great game. Really, really recommend it. Really enjoyed it. But I did move on. So I downloaded 3 games and I've kind of started all 3 of them. And now I just need to like see which one sticks. And I'm not far into any of them yet. So I downloaded Lorelei and the Laser Eyes.
Ooh, nice.
9 Souls and Darkwood, which I just never played, even though it came out, I don't know, I think it came out like a decade ago. It's been a while. So Darkwood is that like top-down horror game where you have to survive at night and then you go out exploring during the day and you're trying to escape like haunted woods, essentially. And from what I've played so far, it's a very fun kind of top-down horror game. But the one I've played the most of, Lorelei, I haven't started at all. 9 Souls is the one I've played the most of, and I'm really enjoying that so far. So it is basically a Metroidvania kind of combined with like the parry and combat system of Sekiro. It actually reminds me a lot of like Hollow Knight. I don't think the exploration is as good as Hollow Knight, but the art style and the combat is far better than Hollow Knight. So highly recommend it. It's also one of the PS rewards for this month. So if you have enough points, you can get it for free. Nice. But yeah, just like a really, really fun game. I'm really enjoying it so far. I hope more people play it because it's very polished. And like I said, it's kind of like Metroidvania Lite, but combat and art carry it.
Yeah, I watched someone play it on their stream, and it looked fun. Definitely what you're saying about the Sekiro stuff. Yeah, a lot of parry mechanics in the game.
It's got a lot of parry mechanics, and if you like the parrying in other games, it feels good, which I think is kind of like you can't catch that on a stream. You don't really get a sense of like whether the parrying is fun or frustrating, because I've certainly played games where the parrying is a really frustrating mechanic and you just want it to end. But this game does it well. It's been really enjoyable so far.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things.
Highly recommend it. Download it. If you have points, you can get it for free.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been meaning to play Lorelei and Laser Eyes. I'm just like waiting to be in that mindset for that kind of game.
I know. I might give it a shot later. I think I played like half an hour of each one just to see like which one I went back to and which one I was interested in. And Lorelei seems very fun. I like the aesthetic of it a lot.
Yeah, it'll be fun. What about you, Zai? What have you been
playing? Nothing.
Wah, wah.
I know. Well, no, I've been playing 14 a lot.
Okay.
Obviously, but after I finished Fantasian, of course I had that like void, the game void. It was like I want to keep playing this, but I don't have anything else to do in it, and I don't want to start anything else yet.
Does one ever truly finish a mobile game though?
It wasn't a mobile game. Well, it was a mobile game, but it actually has like an ending.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm pretty sure it was a mobile game.
It was originally a mobile game, but it's like a proper like RPG. It has an ending. It has like side quests and stuff like that. So it's like, once you do all of the optional stuff and you like beat the story, you could technically do New Game Plus, but it's just like harder, which it really, for me anyway, doesn't need to be harder because it was hard enough. Thank you. I'm done.
Is it hard because the design of the game is structured around it being a mobile game and requiring you to pay for some sort of like booster upgrade?
No, it doesn't have any of that kind of like, because it was originally only on Apple Arcade, so you already had to pay a subscription to like get access to it, but it doesn't have any of that like feeling to it, like, oh, this must have been like a mechanic that they had to switch for porting it to other consoles. It's the only mobile feeling it has to it is like the menuing through stuff in combat is definitely like, oh, I can see here like this is a little cumbersome or I have to push a little bit too many buttons to get to this, but on a touch screen I would have just been able to like tap done. The movement was a little hard to get used to, especially with like the camera angles and stuff. There's some, because of the way the environments are, obviously they couldn't like 3D create like a smooth transition between camera angles, and it's fixed camera angles because they're all physical dioramas that they had to photograph. So it's like they had to photograph things from like very specific angles and plan how you were going to traverse the areas and stuff like that. So there were some instances where like you would be running and the camera would just like violently shift 180 degrees, and now like if you're like running the wrong way with the joystick, whereas like on a tablet, if you were just tapping the screen on where to go, you would just continue tapping where you want to go and stuff like that. So it's like there was a way around it where you could kind of auto run to certain points in the map, which made the violence of the camera switching around way more apparent in certain areas. But that was really like the only thing that felt like a holdover from this being a mobile game with like touch controls and stuff like that. Everything that you do in the game is like in the game. And a lot of the difficulty in the later bosses, I think, comes from the fact that they originally released it in 2 parts. So it was like there was a part 1 that went up to a certain point in the story, and then part 2 came out where it released the rest of the story. So it feels like you can definitely feel where that part 2 came in, because the bosses get insanely difficult, like to the point where there is a trick to a lot of them, and if you don't perform that mechanic or figure that trick out very quickly, your party just gets one shot and you're like, oh, so that happened. There was a specific boss where it's like, I talked about this before, but it spawns all these little ads. So I was like, oh cool, I have 2 characters that do really good AoE damage, so I'll just get one of them in and I'll buff up the party, get that character in, do their AoE attack. Oh, everything exploded and everybody's dead immediately. So it's like that's where a lot of the difficulty came from, was like navigating those tricks and mechanics and stuff like that. And then a lot of the endgame bosses, like I wasn't necessarily over leveled, but I was either at or above the level requirement that it would say in the quest. And if my characters weren't perfectly buffed during an attack, they would either take 90% of their health or just die. So it's just like, it was just very like, you have to pay attention to where your characters are, plan strategy. Like you can see the turn order at the bottom of the screen, so you have to plan the turn order, and you have to predict like what the boss is going to do next based on like, okay, they've done this and this already, so they're probably going to do either this or this on their next turn. So you have to like very carefully prepare, and if you make one mistake, you either just wipe and start over, or you spend a lot of time recovering your party to get back to the point where you can actually start doing damage to the boss. And if the boss has any kind of mechanic that heals itself, you're probably going to be fighting that boss for like 3 days.
Yeah. I've ever seen like all your tweets, or not your tweets, your posts for it in Discord being like, oh, no.
oh no, I finally fought this boss. There were 2 bosses in particular that literally took me 3 or 4 days to complete them. Mostly because like
you started the boss fight and the fight itself, or like it took 3 or 4 days because it was so difficult and you kept dying?
Both. Wow. Because I would obviously play at work a little bit, so I'd have like an hour or 2 of downtime. Because I was playing on Switch. So I'd have like an hour or 2 sometimes where I could just play. So I would, especially at lunch, I would start the game up, start my Switch, be like, oh, right, I was fighting this boss. And you're just kind of like whittling it down. Now lunch is over, I have to go do work. And then I would come home and maybe for like an hour or two, I would continue to try to whittle the boss down. There were a couple that were like that. And there was one in particular, an optional side boss where it was just like I would get really far into the fight and then I would make just one little tiny mistake and I wouldn't be prepared enough for its ultimate attack and it would just wipe my party. And I was like, cool, I have to start over. So it was a lot of that. It was just like the fight itself took a really long time, potentially because I wasn't quite doing something correctly to keep up with its like self-healing and stuff like that. And then also it could go south just very, very quickly. And you're like, well, I might as well just start over at this point because I'm not going to be able to keep being on the defensive. It's just going to do something and heal itself, or it's just going to not matter and I'm going to run out of turns and it's going to wipe me. So that's where a lot of the difficulty in that came from. But like at the same time, a lot of that technically was optional stuff. So like super bosses to get characters like ultimate weapons or unlock certain parts of the skill tree and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, I understand. But also, I'm level 60, and this quest is supposed to be level 52. Why is it hitting me so hard? It was a lot of that. It was just like, I don't understand why you're so beefy.
You ain't ready for this.
What made you start playing this game?
It's made by Hironobu Sakaguchi, and the music's done by Nobuo Uematsu. So it was basically a requirement that I play it.
It's like this game sounds like very fine. Like not bad, just like very fine with how you're describing it. So I was curious, like
some of the combat choices, I was just like, why did you fucking do that? Why did you make it so that if I don't do this very specific thing in this very specific order, now there's 18 wolves on my screen and they all have 20 turn or like 20 hit shields. Why has this happened to me? What have I done wrong to deserve this? But also like it's just a good game. The music's so good and like the story is very JRPG. Like the whole point of the game is the meme, like attack and dethrone God. That's it. That's what you have to do. But it's fine. The characters are good. The biggest draw for it was like the battle system. They have the dimension system where it's like you have this device that when you're running around the map, it stores the enemies that you would normally encounter and fight in random battles. And then you can do what's called the dimension battle, where you just go into this like alternate universe basically and just fight everything at once. So you can also get like special skills during that where it's like you can multiply your turns or you raise your attack and you basically just get to like AoE everything down very quickly and do it all at once. So it doesn't break up your field exploration and stuff like that. And then the combat itself, where it's like you can swap your characters in and out without any penalty. So you have like your full roster that you can strategize with and build like their skill trees a certain way and stuff like that. So that was very good. But the biggest thing for me was like the aesthetic of it. And it was just super, super neat. And I think distracted me from a lot of the like maybe criticisms or negatives of it that I might have had. Just the fact that it's like all of these environments that you're running through, these were all like physical creations. These are all physical things that they made and photographed, and it was all like 3D printing and clay, and you can see all the texture on it and stuff like that. So it's like going through the world in that specific way and going into certain areas where it looks like you look like you're playing a physical like miniature diorama. That was like the biggest thing that drew me to it. It was just like I want to see this in action for my own eyeballs, because like pictures and videos and stuff like that just aren't kind of doing it justice for me. But also, yes, it was made by Hironobu Sakaguchi, so I was obligated to play it at some point.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, I mean, we've talked about this in previous episodes, but where it's like, when it came out, it's like, yeah, the art was like what stood out and everybody talked about initially, just like how nice it looks. And and a lot of people were lamenting the fact that it was only on Apple Arcade, because I think that was back at a point where, like, now I feel like a lot of people are on the Apple Arcade, at least not, I shouldn't say a lot of people I've heard on like in the games industry, the game space and podcasts and all, like where they were kind of adverse to it. There wasn't a whole lot there, and there's like standouts like this, but it's kind of like it's like the Half-Life Alyx of the Apple Arcade, where it's like, okay, there are a lot of good Apple or VR stuff now, but then it's like Half-Life Alyx is like the killer app, and then like this is a great game on here. And then because like back in the day it was like Infinity Blade, and now there's this, and it's like it's nice that it's on other stuff.
Especially considering the fact it's not just a mobile game, it's a full start to finish. I spent 75 hours in it. RPG. There's no there's no obvious microtransactions, there's no gacha, there's no like energy system where you have to like wait or anything like that. It's just an RPG. And I think that was the biggest thing that they wanted to draw people to Apple Arcade with. It was like, hey, we're not just going to give you mobile games, we're going to be releasing like actual full games on the system. But when it very first came out, I was like dying to play it. Michael had gotten an iPad for work, and he was like, oh, okay, well, you can play it or whatever. And I was like, no, I don't want to take your work iPad and play game and stuff like that. And I'm only going to get to play it when like you're not working or you don't need it and stuff like that. And it's like, I didn't know at that time that it was such a long and involved game. So I'm really glad that I didn't do that, because he wouldn't have his iPad back for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that I waited and played it, and I was able to get it on Switch so that I could have options on where to play it and how to play it. But
yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah. Before I get into what I've been playing, there's a trailer that came out for a game called Restitched, and when I saw the thumbnail, I thought, okay, this is going to go one of two ways. It's going to be Little Big Planet, or it's secretly a horror game. And the idea of being Restitched is like a bear. It's it's Woody from Toy Story. He's got a tear in his arm. He's got to get fixed. But in that time, the kid doesn't want the toy anymore. Got a new toy, and now it's a horror game or something. Like it's like a twist. And now you're Lotso the Hugging Bear trying to get revenge or something like that. But I watched it, and it's just Little Big Planet, but you're like a teddy bear, and it's so funny because like it doesn't look bad. But when I watched it, I'm like, okay, this is LBP, a new LBP. But it's like if Sony's not going to make one, then someone else is. And I look at it like, yeah, because you can also build levels. I'm like, okay, like it's even more Little Big Planet. And I was trying to see like, is this made? It's a developer called Trixel Creative.
Never heard of them.
Yep, and that's why I wanted to see like if they are ex Media Molecule folks.
Just making the same game again. I feel like that's always so weird when you have like X people from a company and their first game is basically just the same game that they've made in the past.
Yeah, I'm
if
trying
it's
to see.
Good, like that's why, because that makes it seem like they had all of these things planned and they were ready to like do it, but they couldn't get the okay or the funding from the hires up. They were just like, well, we still want to make it, so I will just go somewhere else and make it. Thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, and it's like, and even if it isn't, it's like, go ahead. Like, if no one's making that style of game anymore, this little cutesy platformer that lets you, create levels and whatnot, it's like, do it. And so it's like, if Sony's not gonna, do anything, it's like, okay. And I'm sure Media Molecule doesn't want to do, they obviously didn't want to do more, keep doing LBP, like they didn't do 3. Someone else did. So it's like, okay, yeah, you don't want to kind of get pigeonholed doing the same thing, but it's like, okay, you got something else. I'm curious how it feels to play though, because that is the one thing I remember. Like the people's biggest issues with the original LVP was that it was too floaty. I got used to it.
I was gonna say it was definitely floaty, but that was clearly an intentional choice. It didn't control like Mario, but it took a while to get used to how it controlled.
Yeah. I'll put the trailer in Discord for later if you want to watch it. But yeah, it's essentially it's just Little Big Planet, but with like teddy bears, and you can make other stuffed animals and whatnot. But I thought that was funny. And then there's this channel called Nerdforge rather, and like she makes this person like they'll make like gaming rooms, but they'll be like themed, like a Dark Academia one. Their stuff always pops up. I forgot about they did that Dwarven Kingdom PS5 from a couple years ago.
Yeah,
like
I watch her channel.
Yeah, it's like I've seen her videos, but like I don't subscribe to the channel, but sometimes they'll pop up and they're like, oh man, like the Space Marine outfit and whatnot. It's like a lot of fun stuff there. But yeah, I've just been playing. So before I get into the main stuff, I did try out Marvel Rivals the other day on New Year's Eve. I streamed with another streamer I follow. We were playing with chat. We had a full team on Marvel Rivals, and I was playing it for the first time, downloading on PS5 since it's free, and gave that a try. It was weird playing like a team shooter after so long, but it was also like, okay, now it's like everybody has totally different abilities. Like I'm so Apex coded that I'm like, I know Apex Legends. Like I could drop back into that and be like, okay, I know what to do as Lifeline or as anybody else, and I just got to get used to the new meta of the new Legends who showed up since I stopped playing. And then I don't have any map awareness, so I kept like falling off the map in this game because I'd be like on a map, like I'm running, I'm strafing, no, I fell off the edge. So I like die, but it seems like I would never play this game again on my own, because it's one of those games where like
a glowing recommendation.
Well, it's because
I would never play this game again.
It's because it's team based, and I like anytime I solo queue, like when Black Ops Cold War came out. And I got that on PS5 at launch. I got it because it's like, okay, it's the first game that was 120 FPS, and I had the new 120 hertz TV. So I'm like, okay, I have a clear advantage. Plus, I wanted to try my new headset and whatnot. And it had ray trace shadows and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, I want to try out some new features that are on the console that aren't on the last one. And like, if I play just deathmatch, I own that game. But as soon as I play any team deathmatch or any other team-based game, it's like, okay, well now I individually can do really well, but my teammates are dragging me down. It was the same in X-Defiant. Like X-Defiant, I was always like top of the leaderboards, but if the team isn't doing well, then I just lose. And I always get a little frustrated when it's like, okay, I'm clearly performing very well. I don't know why. And then it's like, all right, well, they're just dragging me down. That's why, like, at least Apex, it's like, okay, I can communicate in Apex because there's a ping system. That was really great in that game. So many other games have adopted that, where it's like, okay, we can communicate. I can say there's enemies over here, and it's only 3, and usually I could 1v1 or 1v2 sometimes. And it's like it's okay if they don't pull their weight as much, or if I don't pull my weight. Like it's a nicer balance, like 3 versus like 5 or something like that. But even like Rainbow Six, it's like, okay, everyone's so split off, doing their own things. Where it's like, if you're not, and I don't want to chat with randos. But the worst of it, and I hear in Marvel Rivals, is like there's no role queues like there is for other games of its type. So everybody can be DPS. It's like, okay, we need a tank or we need a healer. Who's gonna do it? And no one does it. But anyways, when playing with the team where we're all in, Discord talking, like, was a lot of fun. I tried doing DPS. I did like the Punishers, like, okay, very basic. I got a gun. It was okay. But I ended up switching to Rocket, and he's like a support character. And so I like the way he works. And if I ever played it again, I'd probably only be Rocket or another healer. I'm like, I don't need to do damage. I'll just heal and support my teammates. But like he has an interesting like abilities and how they mix with the team is where like if you have another, depending on the other character types on your team, you'll have like certain abilities that you can do. So like one of our players was Mantis, who's also another primarily healing support character. And if Mantis is on my team, I could drop a respawn beacon for them. And that way when Mantis dies, instead of going back at spawn, Mantis respawns where I put my beacon. So I put it in a good spot. They can be right back in action, yada, yada. And the enemy team can find it and shoot it and what have you. But I can leave it there and it's like, good. And then if someone is like the Punisher or Bucky, the Winter Soldier, I can put down this little totem that has like an AoE where they have infinite ammo in that totem and they don't have to reload. And so like it's a great little thing. And then my ultimate is like I put down a giant totem and then it's a metal like a tech totem, but it's like, and then everybody in there gets like a damage boost. But so it's like I'm the support, but I'm a support that's specific to what my team has chosen. And if someone's Groot and Groot's like a tank, I can jump up on Groot's shoulder and just like do that scene from Guardians 1 where I'm up there like shooting my gun. And I'm voiced by Nolan North, so it's fun hearing Nolan North just like shout stuff. Good times. So it was fun being that like a support character. And I feel like I would never play it solo because I don't know any of the other characters or all the maps yet. So I'd be like, I would not be pulling my weight in the situations. So at least with them, they knew like I'm like, hey, I've never played this. That's okay. And I'm like, I'll be the weakest link. Yeah, I was doing my part healing and whatnot, but it's like okay. But that was fun. But I'd only play it with other people. It's definitely one of those games. Then did I try anything else besides Marvel Rivals? No. And then I was just playing primarily Icarus. I can't get away from that game, man.
God, yeah, you've been really into that. I've been kind of surprised because every time I've watched it, it doesn't look like a bad game. I'm just surprised how much you are into it.
It's because you're always working towards something. And like I said, the reason I play it and I like the mission structure is because, like with Civ, like with Auction Not Included, I love, or like, I guess you could say Corekeeper, but you wouldn't play Corekeeper multiple times, or like Don't Starve or something. Like, my favorite bits is, where am I? What biome am I in? Which will determine like how I'm going to play it. And then, okay, what's my mission type? And then what am I going to work for? It's like, okay, I want to work towards, I want to get, it's an enemy mission. Let's work towards getting the gun. Okay, I want to set up a forward operating base. I want to I need to find some caves in an area I'm not familiar with so I can get the resources going. I need to make this item to upgrade to this item to upgrade to this, get the gun, get prep how I want, yada, 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 and then like go out and do the mission. I like that kind of stuff. Like, and the one I was doing last night was like, I had to go, like, there was an avalanche and I had to go take care of it. So they dropped down this like laser, but in order to power the laser, I had to build a generator. And I've never built a generator before because I don't play open world. So I'm like, I don't need to build a generator. So I'm like, okay, I unlock the tech. I have so many tech tree points I haven't spent on the last tier because I don't play open world, so I don't need to unlock stuff there. And so I'm like, okay, let's unlock the generator. Okay, I've never built the generator before. So it's new tech. So I have to figure out, okay, how do I get there? Oh, I need this. Okay, let's work towards that. Get the resources. And it's like, I like it because I feel like anytime I'm collecting resources, it's never like a resource doesn't matter. Like, eventually some middle resources, like rope is really important early on, depending on what you're making. But then eventually rope gets phased out. But the item you use to make rope is used in other ingredients. And so I just love that if I'm building something new for an objective, and I'm also playing only on hardcore, and hardcore is 1 life, because I felt after a while it's like, okay, normal is just too easy. Hard, you get 3 lives. But I'm like, okay, I want to play on hard. I want to play on hardcore. It's more fun. Plus, it's more entertaining on stream if I die, because then I lose everything. If I don't have insurance, I can't buy the stuff back.
How long has your game been that you've been playing on hardcore?
How long have I been playing on hardcore?
No, yeah, like how much progress would you lose at this point?
Oh no, it's because I'm only playing missions. If I die on the mission, I just lose all my stuff. Like
Oh, it doesn't reset your game. It's just
no.
That mission. Okay.
You used to, back in the day, it used to be you lost your character. They changed it now to where you lose your stuff. It's like way back again. It was like, okay, it's a Diablo style. If your character dies, your character's done. And I'm like, that would be fun, but I'm not going to do that. But losing your stuff is more Tarkov style. So it's like, okay, you just lose all your stuff. You just can't self-revive. If you have teammates, they can revive you. So it's funny. I was doing a mission, or I because I browsed the Icarus subreddit one time. Now it pops up in my feed as a recommended subreddit. But I saw someone had died on a mission that they had done. They didn't do it on hardcore. They were just on hard, and they lost like all their lives. And they died somewhere, and they asked for help. And essentially, what they did is, because their game was open to Steam friends, someone in the community joined their game, ran to their body, and revived them. And I was like, that's such a cool idea to like have people in the community help you. And I had posted a video of me doing a fight where I thought I over prepared for a boss, and it turned out it was perfect, and yada yada. And someone's like, yeah, I'll over prepare. I'll build like a big old forward operating base made out of cement so it survives the weather. I'll put a bunch of gear and weapons. That way, if I die, someone can come in and use all that stuff and then come rescue me. I'm like, yeah, I saw that Reddit post, and he's like, yeah, there's a Discord. And because the game's been out for a couple of years, and he's like, yeah, there's a Discord where people do that. I'm like, the idea of having like a search and rescue Discord channel is really cool. To be like if you were playing, like, yo, I died, can you come get me? And I'd be like, all right, log in, go run to your body and save you. I'm like, that sounds really fun from like a community standpoint. But yeah, I really like it. And whenever you're doing a new mission, it always takes me someplace, and I haven't been, and I got to do something like, okay, and anytime I have to like build tech I've never done. Like, I was trying to also do like there's these recall beacons, so you drop down in your pod from the space station, but there's this recall beacon you can throw that will call the pod to you if there's space. And I'm like, because the one part that's always tough is like, you finish your objective, but you got to go run back to the dropship to go back up. But it's like, if you have this this recall beacon, you can throw it down. And I have it in the tech tree, and it's very cheap to make. But the stuff I need to make it costs a lot of subcomponents. And I was trying to make one before I finished my mission I was on yesterday. And I realized, like, I need so much gold to make gold wire and copper wire. And it's like, it was too much. I didn't realize how much it was going to be. Like there are some items in the game I feel like, why does this need 60 electronic components to make? But because I've never made it, I'm like, okay, this feels like this is more for like a bigger mission, not the mission I'm on, where it's like, yeah, there are a lot of caves. I'm sure there were if I went to every cave that was in the area I had access to, because they do like in the mission structure, they do have a boundary. If you go too far out of bounds, they like return to the mission area versus like open world. And so like I probably could have done it, but I was like, I didn't want to spend any more time. Like I had my gun, I made my ammo, I had everything I needed, I had the generator. I was like, let's just go finish the mission. So I went finish. But that game was just so fun. But I did a mission the other day where it was like the picture had like a silhouette of a big scorpion. I'm like, okay, this is like a boss fight mission. And I go in there, I go prep, I build this little base. I have found this like giant, insane cave system. I was like, holy, there's so many resources. And I'm like, no wonder this cave, the boss is right here, because this cave has so much. If you were to play with multiplayer, you got to have enough, ingredients for everybody to make their armor or what have you, and weapons. Like I make all this stuff, and I had this strat where like I use these things called hedgehogs. They're like just a pair of wooden spikes that you put down on the ground, like little defensive structures. I'm like, all right, I'll just build a bunch of hedgehogs and then put them down. I did it for like a previous boss mission, and the boss died instantly. And I'm like, okay, I clearly over prepared for that mission, but I wanted to do the same strat because I'm playing a hardcore. If I die, I die. So I'm trying to be safe. So I'm like, I get a bunch of hedgehogs. I go to this mission, but I spent so long like prepping that I forgot that there was going to be this big boss. So I get to the area, and then like all these little scorpions spawn, and like take them out with a bow and arrow. They die easily. And then it's ticking up like 10%, 20%, 30% completion on this little, like I put a bunch of materials into this recall pod for the mission. Like they wanted this stuff. And then all of a sudden the recall pod explodes, and it's like, you've missed one. And I'm like, I missed one. And I look over and I see like a little scorpion, and I go to shoot it. And then like the big boss just spawns on me, and I freak the fuck out because I was not expecting that. And I was like, oh, right, there's a giant boss. Like I completely forgot about the boss. And I didn't realize it would be as big as it was. Like the silhouette is big, but I guess it must have been further away from the people in the silhouette, because there's some big Arctic scorpions that I don't like fighting. And this one was huge. And I was like running around and like weaving through the hedgehog. So it was constantly taking tick damage essentially for every step it took. And it was like, it did this charge attack when I wasn't looking at it, and it almost took all my HP, but luckily I had like a set of armor I bought off the store, and I had like a high max HP because of some food buffs, and it was just like, it was such a scary fight, man. I got like jump shooting it, and it was so fun. But then of course, like when it's over, I still have to run back to my dropship. I'm like, I hope I don't die on the way back, because that would piss me off. Like a bear just comes out of nowhere and takes me down. But it's just a fun game, and I feel like I was like, man, this would be a great game to play with multiple people in the open world setting, because it is just like Corekeeper. Like you can fish, you can get animals. Like I don't know what else you can do in Corekeeper. I didn't play a lot of it. But it's like there's like you can do plant food. You got to build your shelter so it can survive storms and different tiers of the storms depending on what biome you're in. And there's like you can set up in the open world, you can set up a mission beacon that'll tell like, okay, here's some missions you can do, and when you complete the missions, you get like resource rewards for doing it, and they'll be like across the map. So you have to set up these little. You have your main base, and you can set, which I feel like Isley would go to town making some insane main base. I've seen some pictures in the subreddit.
Oh god, I always do.
And
just bring me supplies.
Yeah, and like you can set up a little forward operating base to go do whatever mission. So okay, I'll just make a quick like, I got all my main gear. I'll just make like a 2x2 or 1x2 and set up to respawn and yada yada, because you respawn wherever your bed is, like in Minecraft, if you don't have one life to live. And then you go do the mission and you go back and you get the rewards or what have you. So there's like, I feel like if we played it together, like that's the mode we would do it. But it has like all that stuff. Like I haven't done any of the fishing yet. You do like water wheels to power stuff, windmills. Like it's all there to be like just an open world survival crafting, but you do missions. Like, and that's like the extra bit of stuff you can do. Like there's those objectives. And I feel like that easy drop in, drop out kind of stuff. Like, oh, I'm going to go work on this thing, build defensive perimeters, reinforce the walls, what have you, do whatever. But it's a fun game. I just really like playing it. But I did finish that one. Well, I did the objective. I logged out and I got to go run back to my ship. But then I played more Space Marine 2. It's nice. I feel like I can get one mission done in that game if I play it on stream every night. So it's like, okay, at least I'm making full progress. I don't have to like end the stream like halfway through a mission or something. That game's still fun. I still get annoyed at my AI teammates, but it's okay. I just have to deal with it. Especially when like a boss like just shoot the boss, man. And it's like it's annoying because also the anytime big Tyranids come in, like they always aggro me right away. I'm like, can you not just also aggro some of the AI, please? Like, why do you have
They
to
come in like those are robots? I'm gonna go after the guy.
Yeah, nah, you got the hate. they got negative hate on them. They're enmity -20.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a fun game too. I really like, and I keep looking at like I think I talked about last week, but like looking at starter kits. I'm like, I could see playing this. I just don't know about painting all the miniatures. And it has a tabletop.
That's how it begins, and then you're addicted, and $20,000 later, some absurd amount, you post a picture, and we're just like, oh man, you got a problem. Do we need to stage an intervention?
Floating shells of just a bunch of miniatures, but yeah. I think it'd be fun because I feel like the oldest might play it. It does have a tabletop simulator we talked last week. There's a TTS version with an extra like plugin you do to like do all the stuff, and I'm like, okay, I could see like playing that
to get a feel if it's worth actually like playing in real life.
Yeah, I'd rather. Although I feel like the whole measuring distance thing, like, oh, and then this thing can move 6 inches, and you gotta like, that wouldn't be nearly as fun as if you were trying to maneuver around stuff like IRL, like on a game board. But yeah, there's like $50 kits that like have Space Marines Terminators, like a mission in them and a map and everything you need. Like that could be easy enough to do. Even like the $100 ones, like have a lot of stuff that come in as well, like the actual starter kits, not just the entry kits. But again, it just comes down to the painting. Like I don't know if I got time to do that because like I don't got enough free time to just paint figures.
Isn't that like how people play Warhammer? Nobody actually plays it; they just paint the little miniatures, and then they're like, "Oh, it's done! I can't wait to play this someday." And then they just put it up on a shelf, and it's like, "Okay, on to the next one."
I'll just turn my stream into a miniatures stream,
painting
crafts.
Stream.
Yeah, arts and crafts. We're just freaking painting the whole time.
People love doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, I'm sure it's fun. I mean, I used to put together model stuff, but I never
model
did the painting part of
Gundams.
it. I did like model Star Trek, like Birds of Prey and the USS Enterprise and stuff like that way back when I was a kid. Like those were fun, like putting those together. But I never did the painting portions of them. At least the Bird of Prey, it's like, okay, it's already green. The plastic, I don't need to do much. But yeah, who knows? It does seem like it'd be fun. But yeah, I like playing Space Marine. It's a fun game. The problem is just like if I'm in the middle of a mission on Icarus, all I can think about is like the progress, like all the checklist of stuff. Okay, I got this. Now I can get this. Now I can make this. Now I got the gun. Now I got the explosive ammo. Now I'm ready.
I mean, I know you like games like that. I was just surprised at how into Icarus you seem to have gotten, because I feel like I watched you play Sons of the Forest, and I feel like you played Sons of the Forest for like 2 days, and I know I'm exaggerating, but now I feel like you've played Icarus for like 2 months or something. It just seems to be really clicking with you in a way that like games that I would have thought were more up your alley, Sons of the Forest, did not.
I mean, I finished, but I beat Sons of the Forest, and I put 26 hours in that game.
Yeah, I feel like you've put way more than 26 hours in Icarus at this point.
Of course, yeah, I put in 106 hours. But
yeah, there you go.
The disparity is.
It's like the
you're
story
highlighting
in Sons
my
of the Forest
point.
took longer. Well, because the story was over. Like I beat Sons of the Forest. There's no like the story in this is like it's just superfluous. It's like, okay, you terraform a planet, you're going down there getting research information for the people so we can colonize it, yada yada. There's a little bit of a story, and then there's other planets you can unlock or regions of the planet that we don't go to because the terraforming didn't go well as DLC, and I can do those. So I'm just like going through the quote unquote story missions, which are just like, hey, they want you to go do this, go do it for them, and I just like these. I'm like a contractor essentially. I'm just going down there doing stuff. It's not like I completed the story after 20 hours and I'm just playing 80 hours of post game. It's like that's the game. It's just do each of these missions and get through them and unlock stuff and level up. I think I hit level cap. I think level cap is 60 because I hit 60 and then I leveled up and it still said 60. I think you just prestige and get more tech points to put into your tech tree. But yeah, it's just fun. It's a fun, relaxing game. And then that added bit of just playing on hardcore and be like, I could lose all my stuff. It's fun because now I got to pay more attention and not goof around. Like I was doing like a farming run where I there's like this one mission where you can get these exotics, and exotics are like the second tier of currency that you need for certain things. And I was like, oh, on this, if you run this mission, it's clearly a farming mission that you could speed run in like 20 minutes to get some exotics. And it's like, oh, I'll do that, but I'll play it on hard. So at least I get some extra of the normal currency because you get like a 50% boost when you play on hard. Then you get another 50% if you do hardcore. So like, okay, I'll play on hard. And like, I died by mistake. And then I thought it was over, but I was like, oh, I'm playing on hard mode. I just got to go back. But I forgot to set like a respawn point. So I spawned back at my ship. I was like, oh, damn, I got to run all the way back to where I was. But it's I don't know. It's just a fun game. I like doing it. I'm looking forward to getting through more.
Like the story for it is like, here's why you're here. I don't know, just go have fun, rather than like you're working towards the end of an actual story. So it's like every once in a while a story will pop up that's like, oh, here's some more world building, here's some more oh, you unlock something. Okay, now go have fun.
Right. It's not like Hard Space Shipbreaker where it is a job, but it's a job that has like a story about a bad corporation and then someone who tries to do some shit. Like it's just, this is the job. Go down here and explore, have some fun, get more proficient as you do it every single time, which is my favorite bit. It's like, okay, I made the generator for the first time. Now, anytime I want to make a generator, I know exactly how to do it.
Now you have generators. Okay.
If I wanted to make generators, but yeah, and just unlocking more stuff in the store, being like, okay, this backpack does this backpack does this. Get these things. It's just a fun gameplay loop. And again, because of the whole, they give you like some missions like 7 IRL days to beat them in game, or not like real IRL days, but only when you're in the mission. And I'm like, that's so much time.
It looks like a fun game.
Yeah,
is it? It's PC only, right?
Yeah, it's PC only.
Yeah.
But I'd say wait till it's not on sale right now, but like it goes on sale quite often. But you could download it if you don't like it after 2 hours, just put it away. But it's just a lot of fun. I just really like it. And again, because I like the restarting. Like, okay, let's get up and running. Because I can take a break. Like now, I'm probably gonna tonight. I'll play more Space Marine, and then probably Space Marine again on Monday or something. But it's like eventually I'll go back and try another mission. Like, okay, let's try this mission. Like I had a mission I failed where I had to do like, it was a resource collection, but I only had 6 hours, and I had to do it in all 3 biomes. Like this one, they want 600 iron ingots, so I had to like set up the forge, get everything going, get the ingots, deposit them, and then I had to go run to the other end. Like, okay, now they want this resource from this area and do that there, and then I need to run up to the top. But I died and lost that one the first time I did it. I'm like, damn it! So I probably got to go back and retry it now that I have like more stuff unlocked and I'm more proficient at doing those things. Yeah, it's fun. I like it. I like it. But yeah, that's all I got. Like I said, I look forward to playing more Space Marine. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day we'll actually play something now that isn't.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
Now that the holidays are over.
Maybe some point.
He's like Teddy Flood. He's like someday soon in Westworld.
We need to play Void Crew.
Oh, that too. Yeah, we haven't played Void Crew in a while. But
now that I can play it.
Yeah, you can play it. But yeah, and I'll keep an eye on. I really want to play Escape Simulator again, because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of free content that came out to that. I'm like, ooh, there's other levels we haven't done. Like we could play 4-player Escape Simulator. That'd be fun. But do like teams of 2 or something if we want to go in different Discord chats or calls and try that out. But
I don't know if Isley and I can be on a team in an escape room together.
Oh no, why?
That'd be fun.
There's no way I could sabotage you that badly in an escape room game.
Yeah, but you tried to lead me through Dark Souls, and I think we ended up yelling at each other every time.
Yeah.
I feel like it worked out fine. It was fine.
It worked out okay.
But
yeah.
You made it.
Yep.
I had a lot of fun trying to lead you into traps.
Try jumping. But,
wow. Go in that room. I don't want to. It's fine. No.
I mean, speaking of Souls, I was trying to see, like, so I was watching someone there playing Wind Waker Randomizer on stream, and I was like, are there any other games besides, like, the Souls games and Zelda, I guess, that have randomizers that would be fun to play?
Oh, yeah.
A ton of
you
them
can randomize any game at this point.
The RE4 randomizers were really popular recently.
Okay, so there's Resident. Oh yeah, they mentioned Resident Evil.
Yeah, I think like pretty much everything could be randomized.
I have been one of the streamers that I watch almost consistently lately. He's been doing a lot of multi-world randomizers. So there's this mod program called Ship of Arcanian, I think. and you can do multi-world randomizers in multiple different games. And you can either do it at the same time or you can do it asynchronously. So like everybody doesn't have to be playing at the same time. But he's been doing a lot of like Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time and stuff like that. But he's playing with people who are playing like Kingdom Hearts, Stardew Valley, Dark Souls. So it's like not only can you do randomizers in pretty much any game, but you can also do multi-world randomizers in pretty much any game. So it's like I think pretty much anything that you feel like you would want to try a randomizer in, you could probably find it fairly easily.
I think it's just there are certain games where randomizers like make more sense for the loop of the game, and certain games where it's probably like not as fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I'm like, you have to set like, especially for like a Souls game, it's like, okay, well, if you need this key item to progress the story, it's like that has to randomize within the play area of that first bit. So it's like, okay, clearly they probably QA it to make sure that it works properly. But like
sometimes
you can adjust the logic. So you can set it to like no logic, meaning that there is a possibility that you'll get maybe halfway through the randomizer and you cannot complete it because you just can't get the things that you want. Or you can set it to like completable logic where it'll do that, where it'll give you the stuff that you need to progress before you progress to that point or whatever. So, and there's like different levels of randomization you can do too. So you can, for example, you can only randomize the items. A lot of people tend to do that for like their first Souls game runs where they'll just randomize the items, but they won't randomize enemies and bosses. So it's more of a challenge run of like, okay, this is what I have. I have to figure out how to beat this boss with these stupid items that I have found in the wrong places, kind of thing.
Yeah, Bloodborne has an enemy item randomizer where I'm like, I don't want to try to do that one because I feel like that would go poorly to mod that.
But I cannot do that one, so
yeah. Like I do like the Elden Ring one where it's like anytime you go through the fog door, it like takes you somewhere randomly. I do like the random fog door. That one's pretty fun.
I love watching Aggie do those ones.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to look. I'm looking at this big list of randomizers.com essentially. Got like a bunch of games listed, but I'm like, then it comes down to, okay, well, I'll need like in most of these cases an emulator if it's not a native on the console or on the PC or what have you to do it. It's like, okay, but I don't know. It just in my mind it seems like the Souls games are the ones that are best suited for it because of how they're set up. But I don't know what else would be fun.
I think the Souls games, it's kind of unique because like a lot of the bosses, if you're really good, you can kind of beat with any weapon, or people that are really good at the Souls games can beat more challenging enemies without upgraded gear. Like you don't, level 1 runs are a thing and you don't need upgraded gear for them. But with like a lot of other randomizers, the game is designed around you actually needing upgrades and being stronger to win. So I do kind of feel like that's one of the reasons the Souls ones became so popular, is because they're actually possible and probably more fair in a weird way than a lot of other ones.
Yeah, I just hate the ones about like a boss randomizer though on Souls. I feel like I'd hate because I watched like NL did the Souls. I think it was Dark Souls 1. Everyone has the gargoyles that are on top of the belfry, and it's like, but it was Seath the Scaleless. I'm like, that just seemed like a really bad arena to fight that boss.
Yeah.
My favorite one so far that I've seen is it was the like co-op mod, the seamless co-op mod, and they went through the fog wall to fight Margit, and it was the second phase of Rykard on that little bridge instead. That was, or like the fire giant spawns on that little bridge.
Oh my
God. That's always my favorite. You zone in and you're just like, okay, well, shit.
Yeah, I guess Liza P item randomizer feels like it'd be weird.
Liza P could be fair. I don't feel like there was too much in Liza P that was like...
It's very linear though. It's just progress and then the story progresses when you beat the boss. There's not like, it's not open world. It's a very linear thing.
I think the open world aspect helps with the Souls ones too.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like
you can go around it or elsewhere should you not find items you need.
That's why Elden Ring seems like it'd be like the perfect one to do it.
It's a very like, what type of randomizer are you feeling like playing? Are you feeling more of like a challenge run type of thing, like Resident Evil 4, where it's like the game is fairly the game is linear, but you just kind of have to go with what you find type of thing? Or do you want a more open world randomizer where you kind of have to learn little glitches and tricks and ways that you can get around mechanic barriers and stuff like that, like Ocarina of Time or Elden Ring. Like you can kind of plan where you want to go first or what you need to do first, and then based on what you find, you can kind of plan what to do next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the idea. Is like then you have to maybe you find some weapons that you didn't typically use, or combine that with an enemy one. It's like, okay, I didn't expect this enemy to be here. It's like, oh, it's the regenerators, but you don't have the scope, the thermal scope to see the hearts, and you're like,
yeah.
That happens all the time in the Resident Evil one. It'll be like a regenerator in the first room, and then you just have to like run away from it for a while. Or
yeah,
I think you also tend to start learning how to like break the game or how enemies really work in randomizers. Like a lot of the times when I see people playing the RE4 randomizer, they have a more powerful weapon, and they generally end up knowing where to shoot a regenerator anyways, so the scope doesn't even matter. They can just kill them either way.
You just shoot them, and you're like, okay, you'll hit them. Most likely get lucky and just hit the Las Plagas where they are.
Yeah.
But anyways,
my favorite ones are the Super Mario 64 randomizers, where they randomize your move set. So it's like you start the game and you can just jump. That's all you could do, and you have to find your like wall jump, your triple jump, your side jump, and stuff like that. So it's like
that would be funny.
It's them trying to navigate levels in a way that is stupid and wrong, but they can't do it any other way because all they can do is jump. They can't even like grab onto ledges and stuff. So yeah, I really like those ones. It's funny.
That's funny. All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Like I said, not too much news. We'll see if anything pops up next couple weeks. So right now it's kind of sparse, but maybe we'll end up playing Lorelei and Laser Eyes at the same time. We can talk about that in a future episode.
Yeah,
I'm going to start playing Astrobot. So.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get in the mood to go back to that somewhere because I do want to go back to it and play it. But all right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Zai, for joining.
Yep.
And we'll see you all next time.
Later.
Bye.